Mrs. Wiggles and her genes. This is Mrs. Wiggles. Mrs. Wiggles has a big family. She has 4 sons, but once a daughter. Her neighbors all have daughters, but she does not. She plans to have more babies. She meets her friends at the playground one day and describes her problem to them. Do you think I should try again for another girl? Why am I only having boys when they're supposed to be rare? I wouldn't know. I have all girls, Mrs. Ciela complains. Maybe it's something in your genes that gives you so many boys. Mrs. Glands nods in agreement. I remember my doctor saying different things can happen to your genes, she adds helpfully. You should go see Dr. McBee. He should know how to help you. The next day, Mrs. Wiggles visits the Burgess Hospital on Agar Street. The doctor starts to discuss Mrs. Wiggles' problems. Thank you for seeing me, says Mrs. Wiggles. Do you know why I can't have girls? Dr. McBee hums thoughtfully. I wouldn't say you can't have girls. I will need you to take a genetics test first to figure out how I can help you. The doctor orders some tests and tells her to come back in a few days. Mrs. Wiggles goes home feeling nervous yet hopeful. Dr. McBee should be able to help her. A few days later, Dr. McBee invites Mrs. Wiggles back to his office to discuss the results. So why can't I have a girl? Mrs. Wiggles asks anxiously. Dr. McBee starts. You mentioned in our talk last time that you've only had 4 sons out of multiple eggs. The genetics test I ordered came back and shows that you have a mutation in the MISH5 gene. What does that mean? Mrs. Wiggles questioned. Dr. McBee replies, the MISH5 gene is involved in meiosis. When your eggs are being made, the chromosomes from your mom pair with matching chromosomes from your dad. These homologs undergo a process called crossing over where they exchange genetic information. Pieces of their chromosome arms are broken off and attached to their partners. After the exchange, the homologs stay together in a structure called the chiasma. Crossing over is important for genetic variation in a population. The chiasmata is important for proper chromosome segregation. MISH5 encodes for a protein that is responsible for forming crossover sites that will become the chiasmata. Your mutated MISH5 gene makes proteins that do not function properly. This keeps crossovers from happening in your germ cells, which makes it harder for your chromosomes to separate evenly. As a result, you have more aneuploid eggs. In other words, your eggs have more or less chromosomes than it should. How bad is the aneuploidy? Asks Miss Wiggles. It depends on which chromosomes are duplicated or lost in meiosis. For example, losing an X chromosome in one egg will give the embryo an XO genotype once fertilized by the sperm. These will develop into male larvae. However, if some autosomal chromosomes are lost in one of the eggs, then that egg will be unable to develop normally and never hatch. I think that is the reason you have only sons. But is there still a chance I can have a girl? Yes, but it is rare. Is there any way to help me have girls with my next pregnancy? Yes, gene therapy can help you. I can insert a genetic vector with the normal MISH5 gene into your body. The vector will integrate into your genome and then it will start producing the functional MISH5 protein. Your germ cells will undergo normal meiosis with crossovers. This increases the chances of having eggs with the correct number of chromosomes. That is good news to hear, exclaimed Mrs. Wiggles. I would be happy to undergo this gene therapy. Dr. McBee scheduled her next appointment in order to have time to prepare the vector needed to help Mrs. Wiggles. She returns days later, gets the gene treatment, and goes home hopeful. Weeks later, it is time for Mrs. Wiggles to lay her eggs. To her surprise, when they hatched, she had a little baby girl. The end.